The night was colder than usual, not because of the weather, but because of the emptiness in her heart. Anna sat alone on a park bench, her hands trembling as she clutched an old photograph. Her eyes, swollen from endless tears, stared blankly at the picture as though trying to escape into a time when life made sense. She had lost everything. Her job, her home, her trust in people, and worst of all, her hope. She wasn't just tired, she was broken. Shattered into pieces so small she no longer believed anyone could put her back together. And yet, at that very moment, when her soul was silently screaming for rescue, a stranger's footsteps drew near. Little did she know, this stranger would change her life forever. Anna hadn't always been like this. Once, she was a woman filled with laughter. A teacher adored by her students, someone who lit up every room she walked into. But tragedy has a way of crushing even the brightest souls. 2 years ago, her fiancé left her for someone else. She tried to forgive, to heal, but then the school she worked at closed unexpectedly, leaving her jobless. Soon after, her mother fell gravely ill, and despite Anna's desperate efforts, she lost her too. The chain of losses was relentless, and each one took another piece of her spirit. She pushed people away, believing that no one would ever stay, and when the last of her savings ran out, she found herself with nowhere to go but the park bench where she now sat. She felt invisible, abandoned by the world. It was nearly midnight when a man stopped a few steps away from her. He was tall, dressed in an old coat that had clearly seen better days. His face bore lines of hardship, but his eyes carried a warmth that caught her attention even through her despair. "Cold night," he said gently, his voice calm and kind. Anna didn't reply, afraid that if she opened her mouth, her pain would come pouring out like a flood. He didn't move closer, he just stood there, respecting her space. Then, after a quiet moment, he set down a steaming paper cup of coffee on the bench beside her and began to walk away. That small act, so simple and wordless, struck Anna harder than any speech could have. No one had done anything kind for her in so long that it felt foreign. She looked at the cup, steam curling into the night air. And for reasons she couldn't explain, tears began streaming down her cheeks. Something inside whispered that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as invisible as she thought. She sat on that lonely park bench, clutching an old photograph with trembling hands. Her eyes swollen from crying. Her heart empty from losing everything she once loved. Life had broken her piece by piece, and tonight, she felt invisible. Abandoned by the world. But what Anna didn't know was that, in just a few minutes, a stranger's quiet footsteps would change her life forever. And once you see how it begins, you won't be able to stop until the very end. Days passed, and the stranger returned. His name was Michael. He never pushed her to talk but always sat nearby, sometimes with food, sometimes with just a smile. Slowly, Anna allowed herself to say a few words. Then sentences until finally, she shared her story. Michael listened without judgment. He didn't tell her to move on, or be strong. He simply listened, really listened, as though every word she spoke mattered. In a world where she felt discarded, his presence was a lifeline. Michael knew what it meant to lose. Years ago, he had been a successful architect until an accident took his wife and daughter. Unable to cope, he lost himself in grief, drinking away his career and his home. He had wandered the streets for months until someone, another stranger, offered him kindness. That single act had sparked his recovery, and now, helping others gave him purpose. When Anna heard his story, she realized she wasn't alone in her pain. Brokenness was not hers alone to carry, others carried it too, and some had found their way back to life. Michael introduced Anna to a shelter where she could sleep safely and eat properly. It wasn't easy. She fought her shame, and the crushing voice in her head that told her she was worthless. But with his encouragement, she started to believe she deserved a chance. Days turned into weeks and slowly, the fog in her mind began to lift. She volunteered at the shelter, helping other women who had fallen on hard times. For the first time in years, she felt useful again. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of gold, Anna looked at Michael and whispered, "Why me? Why did you help me?" His answer was simple yet profound. Because once, someone helped me. And now, it's my turn to pass it on. That moment etched itself into Anna's heart. She realized that the greatest healing often comes not from fixing everything at once, but from small acts of kindness that remind us of our worth. She thought the cup of coffee was just a kind gesture. But what followed was a story far deeper than she ever imagined. The stranger who offered her warmth was hiding scars of his own, scars that connected their broken souls in ways neither of them expected. And what happened next will make you believe in second chances, in healing, and in the power of kindness. Stay with this story, because the ending will move your heart forever. Months later, Anna had rebuilt pieces of her life. She found a part-time teaching position at a local community center. The children's laughter reignited her passion for teaching. And though she wasn't the same woman she once was, she had become stronger, deeper, and more compassionate. Michael remained in her life. Not as a savior but as a friend who believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. Together, they started a small program at the shelter to help women regain skills and confidence. A safe place where broken souls could find light again. But the real change wasn't in what Anna achieved. It was in how she viewed herself. She no longer saw herself as broken beyond repair. She realized that pain didn't define her future, resilience did. She understood that scars weren't signs of weakness but proof of survival. And above all, she learned that sometimes, it only takes one stranger's kindness to remind us that life is still worth living. As Anna stood before a group of women one evening, sharing her story, her voice steady and filled with quiet strength, she said, "I thought I was finished. I thought I had nothing left. But then someone reminded me that even in the darkest night, there's always a light. And if you can't see it, sometimes someone will hold it for you until you can." Tears filled the eyes of those listening, because her words were more than words. They were living proof of hope. And in that moment, Anna realized something powerful. She wasn't broken anymore. She was transformed. The stranger who gave her coffee on a cold night didn't just change her life. He helped her discover the courage to change it herself. And that, she knew, was a gift she would carry forever. This story leaves the audience with a strong, inspiring message. No matter how broken you feel, one act of kindness, whether received or given, can become the spark that brings life back to the soul.